Okay, we are live. We're just filming a little video. Thought we would plug into the YouTube community.
Yeah. Hey, YouTube. How's it going out there on this wonderful, bright and sunny Monday without much smoke in the air?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a little video filming for our Kickstarter campaign that you can find. I guess what would be the easiest way? Halo? They wanted to search.
Yeah, just search Kickstarter and Halo, or
Either of
we
our
have the
names.
link. We'll drop the link in the comments in a bit.
Okay, so I'm just going to start
Recording.
and we're just going to have
a chat.
a spontaneous conversation.
Okay. All right. I think I'm pretty relaxed.
Me, you, and Halo.
Yeah.
All right, we're rolling.
Cool. So we'll keep this on. Well,
For a second.
I could take it off.
Well, I actually feel great. So why don't we?
Yeah.
So just to start out, what these are gel caps that have been sitting in the freezer, and so when supercomputers are super, one of the reasons because they're put under cold environmental conditions, and what that happens is that cold removes a lot of that activity at the subatomic level and the atomic level. Really, it allows everything to flow much faster. So you can get a higher conductivity in a semiconductor in super cold atmosphere than you would at room temperature. And so my thoughts were what about our brains?
Mm-hmm.
So your brains it's a little computing device, and so we keep these in here to, after you come in from a hot day, have a walk. It's totally nice to have that down. But also, some of my thoughts is if we're putting these on together, you've heard about a meeting of the minds or people putting their heads together. When we put these on at the same time, our heads are experiencing a similar environmental change that is going to almost like entangle them better together. I think it just helps. It'll help, even if it's the placebo effect. In effect, it'll help us connect together for nonverbal communication, which most communication is nonverbal.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking of our brains becoming entangled. Wait, you just said that. Okay, that doesn't count. But that's the idea.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You know what I also do whenever I take these off is I put it over my heart and I cool down my heart too. You can feel it. You can feel it right there.
Yeah.
I want to get a full bodysuit. I want to be able to just like crawl into one of these and roll around in one of those big pool of plastic play toys. Balls.
Just get a whole, or make a swimming pool of these.
Yeah.
Just jump in.
But I think having the cool down factor, just like even in if I go to a spa, the one I go to in San Francisco has a basically ice cold fountain. You crawl under, just have ice cold water coming in. I'll go back and forth between that and a hot room, and I miss those days. That was in the before times. But it feels great, doesn't it? When you just anytime I ever had a headache or anything coming on, I put one of these on. And it just feels amazing.
It's really effective, yeah.
Very effective. Okay. So we are just chatting about our upcoming
Kickstarter campaign.
Kickstarter
campaign. I said it. Upcoming, currently launched Kickstarter campaign.
It just launched. So we got like 30 days to reach our goal of $50,000. What are we going to do with $50,000? Spend it all on more of these.
Yes.
I would say, like, definitely at the one of the most important things is the levitation.
Yeah.
We have to achieve that levitation project. But I think it's really a matter of that's not going to be that much more. But I mean, this is actually the hard part. Is to be able to have a localized computer that can do the training powerful enough and fast enough. to do that. So it's a combination of having the hardware and the intellectual capacity to design the algorithms necessary to make it happen.
Now, what is it that they're looking at? Because it looks like a bunch of pretty lights on a computer. Is that all it is?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it isn't.
This is actually a transhumanist computer. What is transhumanism?
According to Wikipedia, transhumanism is a philosophical movement that advocates for the transformation of the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies to greatly enhance human intellect and physiology. Transhumanist thinkers study the potential benefits and dangers of emerging technologies that could overcome fundamental human limitations as well as the ethical limitations of using such technologies.
Increasing the intellectual capacity.
Yeah.
I think it's a big part of what we're trying to accomplish. And that connection, why shouldn't computers be natural? For one thing, I don't buy into the whole perspective. I think it's very narcissistic and almost godlike when people say that they're separate from nature.
Yeah.
Because we're nature, we're natural. What is artificial? I mean, there's some nasty shit out there, but everything that a person makes is part of nature.
I've always had that perspective too. Like, I never understood human caused versus natural cause.
Right.
I mean, I guess it's because humans have so much of an influence on certain systems that it's necessary to analyze our own behavior that way. But really, we are a part of nature.
Definitely.
And to separate it is just, it might work in practical discussions of, okay, how much can we slow down climate change, things like that. But in the grand scheme of things, to think humans invent laws of nature, right?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know who would say that. But
only a narcissist.
yeah.
So, so what we're looking at here is a transhumanist approach to computing, to where we're making computers more human and humans like us more computer-like. And when I say computer-like, is like we have data and stuff coming out of our heads on a regular basis, even when we're not talking or speaking or moving or anything, because our brain waves are always working. So we are just now, really in the last decade, we have the technologies. We have a home EEG, full biosensing systems, where we can capture that data, send it to a computer, and use it for meaningful purposes. Many applications.
Can I jump in a second?
Yeah.
So what we mean by computers more human-like, humans more computer-like, a lot of people sometimes think of AI takeover, the singularity, all of that. We are not trying to reproduce consciousness, phenomenal consciousness, inside of a machine.
No.
Rather, the machine is an extension of our own consciousness and how it operates in the real world. So we're taking a radically different approach to AI than pretty much everybody else that's just focusing on mind uploading, all of that scary singularity stuff. The power in this computer is not from what it can do just all on its own, isolated from a human. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't work that way. It's the entanglement factor between the human and the computer, and the interaction, mind-machine interface between our intentions and how we're using that to program the computer.
In many ways, that it does alleviate the fear. Let's say, if widely adopted, this AI would not pose the same threat that a lot of other AIs would, that are designed specifically to. I think this is kind of interesting. They're afraid that it's going to be more human and then destroy everything.
Yeah.
So they're not afraid that the AI is going to take over per se. They're afraid that it's going to take over and become human-like, because that's what humans do.
Yeah.
And our AI, though, it's not even in the same realm, because it would just not work. So like this would just, you can even see kind of part of it in action behind us. It would fall into a more of like a chaotic, random approach and without really doing much. And so we would not fall into that "could this take over"
Yeah.
category.
Right. So For $50,000, like you said, we're going to build, or with $50,000, we're going to build more of these, and also scale it. Right, that's a big part of it. We have a number of events that we've done in the past where we've taken this type of technology to the lighting and sound component, especially, that enhances people's consciousness at various music festivals and other events. And we want to basically build a entertainment center and peace museum filled with this kind of technologically driven art that expands peace. And also, it would double as a science lab, as furthering innovations in consciousness science and peace expanding technology. Because this is really an instrument that can take us into inner space.
It's a weapon of
and
peace.
Discover it. Yes.
Now, when we say peace, it's people evolve as consciousness expands.
That's
the peace we're talking about.
Yeah.
So we're not anti anything, but we're pro peace, and it's a double entendre. It's kind of a triple entendre. But you have the acronym itself, but then what does the acronym? People evolve. So when we do an event, we're tapping into their synaptic pathways and evolving them with new experiences, like what you see in this room. Can you hit the power button over there? Then on the wall. New experiences and new information. We make that kind of a profound experience that expands consciousness. People evolve. And then, so we're literally in the evolution business. We're helping people evolve further on their own evolutionary track, which includes body and mind. And so when we say, some people, I remember one person in particular, when I described all of this to her, this was at a maker fair, she's like, "You've invented an empathy machine."
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that was really cool. That was a nice thing to say. And after a while, though, I started thinking, well, it's not just because sociopaths are empathetic.
They can be.
So, so what is it really? And I would say this component of empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
Those two you kind of need to get her, because compassion is the acting on the empathy, and hopefully in an empathetic way, in a compassionate way, right? And so, for example, at our events that we used to have in the before times, people would stand in line for hours to go through our experience for 10 minutes, but it would be completely free. So we wouldn't charge. We could perfectly charge any amount we wanted to people. And a lot of people would criticize us for that, for not charging them, but that would completely lose the whole purpose of it, right? Because people gave us something more valuable than, I think, a couple of dollars, and that was their time and their attention. And so this is kind of a stripped down version of the installations we do at Maker Faire, World's Fair, places like that.
And that have won several awards.
That have won, Maker Faire has given us 3 Editor's Choice Awards. And that is, we'll have another demo video that does just that. Because I don't think anybody can really see it from in here.
Yeah.
But look at it right now. It's fully lit up.
Nice.
So we really need to get a way to get this and be able to convey that on the screen. Maybe even like set up a camera right in front of it. It's just like the aim pick. Aim camera.
Aim camera live broadcast. Yeah.
But we're just chit-chatting today because we're going to be piecing together our video for a fundraising campaign on Kickstarter, and that's what the phone here is for. So sort of our big vision is to actually open up a ground level, build our own building that is a consciousness center, art gallery, and museum, tech, art museum, all working as one, hopefully here on Allenby Island.
Yeah.
So that's the bigger vision. So, the 50,000 is really just a drop to launch us into the ether sphere.
Yeah.
Which will include creating smaller versions of this, bigger versions of this, home computers, supercomputers, and all kinds of different consciousness expanding devices, services, products, inventions, toys, those types of things. And sort of the overall thing is I guess part of the bigger vision is that if ubiquitous and people adopted it on a large scale, even if micro communities adopted it on a large scale, you would become more connected with each other, thus creating less conflict and a more peaceful world.
Yeah.
That would work. I don't think people will ever evolve to the point where there's no conflict. That just sounds not possible.
Yeah.
And if you can look to nature, I don't think you see that anywhere in nature. And so, but what we can do is at least regulate our path towards that. And so we would take the ideas and installations that we've been doing for a number of years here in the Bay Area and basically finding a permanent home and then using that permanent home to expand it to other locations. I can see a peace museum everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
In all the big cities, and a place just that people can chill out. Because like if you were in this room, we could plug you in and turn you off, and your brain could just like go into a drift. And when you came out, there's no drugs, there's no alcohol, there's nothing like that involved. And so when you come out, you actually have just experienced like a trip through inner space that was completely restful.
Yeah.
And everybody needs that at some point.
Definitely.
Everybody needs
Yeah.
that. So our technologies can allow somebody, imagine a room like this in their home, to enter into these states quickly and rapidly, that in a manner that would normally take somebody years of practice to get to. Years of practice. We can get them there in a few minutes. And we want to be able to bring this to a large scale, but not just bring them into that state, but actually use the information where they're going to that state as data that will help them throughout their lives.
Yeah.
So imagine this for a moment. Imagine you became one of our clients, a lifelong client, and you had a home EEG and EKG and all this stuff, and you started just collecting a database of all of your brainwaves and stuff for years and years and years, and then you start getting into the declination years. Things like Alzheimer's, things like that start creeping in. Let's say you're like 100 years old and your brain starts declining. We could potentially use this information to feed in all kinds of stuff to reinvigorate those neural pathways from your youth, or help generate new pathways, or help recall. Not that I don't think we're like capturing memories, but if we're capturing your brain waves, what we're capturing is your own. It's like it would be like hearing your own voice.
Yeah.
Almost. If you ever hear a voice of you when you were a teenager versus now, it's different.
Yeah.
It's a lot different. And so your brain kind of goes through the same things, those changes. And so we are at the very beginning stages of this, the very, very beginning. And I often call it the Pong phase. We're the Pong phase of neuroscience. And I see what our contribution is how does this stuff work in the real world? We can go out and fill our heads with all the white papers and all the advanced science and all the stuff that's going out there. So the general person doesn't need to do that. And what we offer them, rather than, I think, advice, would be tangible knowledge and things that they can bring into their own life that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And that could actually better. Not that we were obviously not the only ones out there, but we definitely have a unique perspective. And I think one of the biggest things, I guess this isn't really that apparent in the Kickstarter video or the stuff, is what happens if thousands and millions of people had these in their homes hooked up to the internet. It would be it's something I call the outer net, but it would be a whole different wavelength of communication going on.
Yeah.
Between everybody involved. What was it? What was the phone? What was the type of phone? The spirit phone or
the soul phone?
The soul
Gary
phone.
Schwartz's thing.
Gary Schwartz's soul phone. This could be like a center, not work exactly the same what I'm sure he imagined.
Yeah.
But we can program this and do some amazing things. And so over the next, you're going to see it evolving because we have everything we need now to continue making amazing things at this level.
Yeah.
Right. We could continue to do it, but with funding and with that would help us pay the team and get people out of volunteer mode to really focus on some of the bigger problems and technical issues we have of bringing this to fruition to the masses. And so I think shortly after the campaign, we'll have no problem, unless there's a problem with supplies. We shouldn't have any problem meeting all of the. We can make all of what's in there today with what we have. We don't. What I'm trying to say is we don't need to figure something else out.
Yeah.
We've already figured all that stuff out.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of pulling the pieces together and making it happen. And anything else that you see off the list that we want to share with the Kickstarter people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I just want to emphasize the science component of this is that this is a multidisciplinary science and art combination, and that is really what is needed going forward for future innovations, according to a lot of great thinkers out there, and Einstein included. All of the Nobel Prize winners said something like that in recent history. And this is really a culmination of interdisciplinary work, right? Using art to advance science and vice versa.
And if anybody doesn't understand the connection between those two things, I would just like to refer you back to the historical figure Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes.
If you think that art isn't science or science isn't art, please go back in time and educate yourself.
But that doesn't apply now. That was a while ago.
That was before the internet.
That was before science
figured it out.
That they don't need art. Yeah.
1,000 years from now, they're going to look at the scientists of today and go, "Those ignorant people, thought they knew everything and knew very little."
Yeah. It's inevitable.
Yeah. Every generation of scientists thinks that they have figured it out, and there's just one or two things left to do, which they themselves are destined to figure out.
Yeah.
And finalize the final factor, the final piece of the puzzle, and seal them into the annals of historical figures.
Quantum gravity.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, now it's quantum gravity, but in 100 years, who knows what it'll be.
Yeah.
Because usually when you think there's just one thing left to solve, one little inconsistency, you find it's not just a missing piece of the puzzle, it's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And once you go down it, there's no coming back. That opens up entirely new branches of science. And there's no telling where the bottom is or where that'll stop.
And in our press release, one of the press releases specifically addresses that thing about opening up a new branch of science. And that's a whole, I mean, the hybrid computer is definitely what we're talking about there, and the qubit processing and our approach to that. But there's also the fact that semiconductors are getting much more difficult to make.
Yeah.
And the issue is electron tunneling. This is a different use for electron tunneling. So it's possible that we've identified a completely different use for electron tunneling where it's not a problem. It's actually a solution. And we can combine semiconductors to actually incorporate the electron tunneling phenomena into not just a byproduct or something to be bothered by, but an asset, something you can actually utilize. That's exciting. That's exciting to me.
Yeah.
And so there, like I said, there's a lot more to this than, I guess your question, a lot more to it than blinky lights. But because our consciousness does have an effect on it, when you look at it and you view it, it creates a sense of warmth, and it's like, oh, there is something. And if you look at it, there are anthropomorphic qualities to it. It's got ears, a hat, eyes, and a mouth, right?
Yeah.
So like, even though our conscious decision-making selves will look at that and say, oh, there's a bunch of blinky lights in a computer I've never seen like that. our subconscious inner child is going to look at it and go, oh, cool. There's a computer that looks kind of like a person.
Yeah.
Right? There's like a, so what we're looking at is type of robot. It's a kind of a robot that does speak to us, but in a completely different way. You kind of have to learn to understand what it's saying because it's not speaking English. It's speaking sounds and lights.
Yeah.
And we know we're in coherence to it. But over the next several months, you'll watch us give it a voice where you'll be able to talk to it. It'll be able to respond, and not in the predictive programming. So one of the things that we do distinguish ourselves is what we're focusing on is non-deterministic programming, and almost all programming is deterministic because you can re-engineer all of it. You can see why everything happened and why every decision was made and the reason it was made. Whereas this, just for example, these three lights here at the top, there's no way to re-engineer. We know why they're changing and what's changing them, but there's no person making a decision or a program making a decision of which one it's going to be in 2 hours. There's no way for us to tell.
It's all based on quantum noise.
Yeah, quantum noise. And so that's one of the exciting things. And so our programming, our non-deterministic program is sort of the same concept. We know the signals are coming. You can't stop them. They're going to happen. And so it's just the art form of knowing how to stratify that data. And that's where the qubit processing comes in. All right. Well, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we'll probably cut it here and we'll be continuing to post this for our YouTube channel. Feel free to leave any comments, subscribe, pass it along, and stay tuned for more posts this week.
All right.